All right, guys. So before we get started, I'm starting to do these intros ahead of time so that I give you a little bit more information about the guest, and I also get to announce the podcast partner for the month or for the year. So the podcast partner for the year is Adex Club and Maces. You guys can go check them out at adexclubs.com. Anyway, so yearly podcast partner would be Adex Clubs, and I'm excited to announce, which I guess I already announced it via Instagram, but I'm still very excited to announce, and I was dying to let everyone know that me and Leo teamed up to give you guys an awesome deal through the podcast for being awesome and contributing to the community by listening and just picking up a mace. All right, guys. So we really appreciate you. So Leo hooked it up, and you can enter SM Warrior over at stillmaceflow.com, and you can get yourself a really awesome Steel Mace Flow online course. It is a certification, but I actually had a conversation with Leo over the phone, and I'd asked him, hey, can anyone take this course? And he said, of course, anyone could take the Steel Mace Flow online course, whether you're a Steel Mace enthusiast or a like personal trainer or coach, and you're looking to get certified. All right, guys. So just to let you know, you can take the online course. It doesn't matter who you are. So go check it out. Enter SM Warrior, and you get $200 off the original price. So again, stillmaceflow.com. Thank you, Leo. Thank you for providing that promo code for us. And obviously the next 4 podcast episodes are also going to be Steel Mace Flow coaches, and we're going to go into flow, but I'm pretty sure we're going to reach a lot of really cool different topics. And for today's podcast episode, we have Jeffrey Ochs. So you'll notice that I fucked up and I said his last name wrong, but it's really cool to know a little history about his last name. So we go a little bit into that. We also go into his story, how he got to the maze. Obviously, like every other podcast, that's what makes this, I think this whole podcast program so awesome. The Steel Mace Warrior podcast provides that platform to ask people, like, how did you get to the maze? Because a lot of them have really interesting backgrounds. So Jeffrey Ochs has a really cool, interesting background. A really awesome story, like every other guest. I'm always really what would be the word? I feel lucky to be able to hear everyone's story, and I can relate to some too, like I can really relate to this episode. We also go into, just depression and, how, we go through the motions, and he has a lot to say on that. I'd rather not give away what he says. I really felt touched by this episode. You'll probably hear me getting a little quiet and listening more than contributing to the conversation, just because it's a hard topic for me. I lost someone to suicide, so it's hard, and losing my dad 2 years ago. So just depression is something that I deal with on a daily basis. So you'll see me getting a little quiet and not being able to really speak what I wanted to. I really let Jeffrey I let him take the lead on this one. I think he was a lot more experienced as well. So I'm really excited. Besides that, the conversation's positive. It's great. We also talk flow, and I really want you guys to know him. And by the way, his thing is called A2 Still Fit. And I'll go ahead and add his link. He has an awesome logo, awesome t-shirt. He was taking pre-orders at the time of the podcast recording, but you might want to ask him about that t-shirt that he has. It's a really cool logo, a really cool piece of artwork if you guys want to go check him out. And again, I'll add the links below. All right, guys, so let's get into the podcast episode. Again, big shout out to Adex, big shout out to Leo Savage. You're awesome, man. And big shout out to Jeffrey Ochs. So let's get into this. All right. right, so here we are, another podcast episode, Still Mace Warrior. And by the way, thank you so much for the couple of people, you know who you are. You guys donated and supported the podcast. I really am honored to still be here, and I'm so grateful for you guys. If it wasn't for your guys' support, I don't know how much of this I can possibly do. So thank you guys for purchasing t-shirts and donating straight up through PayPal. But anyways, today we have Jeffrey Ochs, and I've actually been wanting to have you on for so long. I think we've been going back and forth for like how long?
Almost a year.
Yeah, a year, huh?
I think our first emails back and forth were in like around August, September of last year. So
yeah. It's been a while, and it's just I've been dying to have this podcast episode. To be completely honest with you, I was like, God, I got to get back in touch. But I went with the flow, and I was like, he'll come back when he's ready, you know. And then I know you had a couple of things happen throughout the year, so which we'll get into. But so go ahead, tell us about your story and fitness, and then kind of what led you to the mace.
Well, the first thing I want to tell you is that my last name is actually pronounced Oaks, like a tree.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Even though it looks like ox, O-C-H-S, that's actually it's a German word that means ox, but we on this side of the pond pronounce it oaks for some reason. So I like both meanings. They both are, oak trees are very strong, and oxen are very, very strong animals. So I'll take it.
It goes with you. Yeah. 100.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So my story in fitness started a long time ago. I was a runner most through high school and through college, and even a little bit after that. And I also started martial arts at a very young age, doing Taekwondo when I was probably 9 or 10 years old. And I stuck with that through most of high school. And then, when I went off to college, sort of my fitness career kind of took a little bit of the wayside. I dabbled a little bit in Tai Chi and Aikido over the years, and then kind of got back into fitness when I started running again shortly after college. Injured my knee, and it was really in the rehab from that surgery that I kind of fell in love with being in a gym. So it turned out that physical therapy actually had a really positive impact on my life, because I started looking forward to going. And that was when I really started to get addicted to seeing like numbers increase. And, it was primarily with the leg press machine. But once that healed up, and then I was back in a martial arts dojo, and then I started teaching little kids, and then I got into kettlebells, and then I got into powerlifting, and so that's the fitness in a nutshell. I've also done a lot of years of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, done some competing, done some Muay Thai kickboxing. Kind of put my hands and legs and feet into a number of different places.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you mentioned the whole rehab thing kind of led you to the gym and stuff like that. I think this is the first time that I've heard something in those terms. And then I think it always comes back to everyone that's using a mace, I feel, have some type of like martial arts background. Like, I feel like you've done everything.
Yeah. The one thing that I didn't do that I always wish I'd done, I wish I wrestled in high school. I always spent time running away from the wrestlers. But I wish I had done it. They were bullies, man.
That's what happens, right?
I grew up I went through high school in kind of a small town in southeastern Michigan, and I found myself on the wrong side of some of the kids that were farmers, and there was a spot out on a dirt road that they like to take people like me, and
so you had bullying growing up and stuff like that. That's actually really common, and it's really it's a really sad thing to see, because you'd think we'd be more evolved to not do things like that. But
in that kind of environment, I think there was just a lot of people didn't know, or people didn't really care, or there was kind of a it's weird. I don't want to say like the bullying had like some good judgment associated with it, but like they knew. They weren't like beating you to death. They would just kind of rough you up a little bit.
Right. Do you
make
think that
make
made
a point?
Do you think that made you
whatever.
stronger though over the years?
No, no, I think it made me want some rematches at this point in life.
Hell
But
yes. Some wrestling
um,
rematches.
yeah, I
All
feel
right.
way more, way more equipped. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I don't know if that kind of thing makes you stronger. I mean, it's nice to know that you can take a punch if you need to take a punch, but in this world, hopefully you don't have to, and you
Right.
don't have to know those things. So
Yeah.
I don't know what real long-term benefit came out of it aside from the fact that now I'm like really against bullying, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
Which we need more of that, right? And then
Oh yeah, definitely.
you've trained kids too, so
Yep,
that's a
yep,
plus,
yep.
right? Having that a little bit of that background. So if any of those kids are ever going through something like that, you'd be like their sensei.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of them are pretty well equipped. So
That's awesome. All right. So, I mean, you mentioned, rehab, going to the gym and everything.
yeah.
Now, where did the mace come through? And then
Mm.
kind of um, when did you get into flow?
Yeah. So I tell two stories about how I found the mace, and I'll go ahead and I'll tell you both. There's the story that I used to tell, and I think it's the story I told on the first podcast I was on. So I hope when Adam hears the second story, it doesn't throw me any shade for elaborating further now. But
Yeah, yeah.
I first found the mace when I was coming out of a powerlifting phase. I was really enjoying pulling heavy numbers. The deadlift was my strong suit. It wasn't super powerful on the bench, but I had a good squat and I had a pretty awesome deadlift. I was also training heavily in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu at the time. So, I mean, I was just walking around hurting all the time, like
Yeah.
body aching, just not recovering properly. And over time, like I started getting this sort of like negative attitude about going to the gym. I wasn't really fired up anymore to go do a bunch of support work and make myself more sore. I was getting, muscle tears, having to take time off jujitsu, and it just stopped being something that I was really enjoying.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't want to lose track of fitness, so I was kind of like looking around for different things that I might get into. And I was also a big fan of the band Tool, who is known for using artwork by Alex Gray, who I'm also a fan of.
Right.
And this leads us to the quad mace, which is that Onnit put out, which is a oh look, I think I've got one right back there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's a four-headed sculpture on a mace, which is a 25-pound mace. um, I kind of knew that I needed to have one, but I kind of thought that 25 pounds was at the top tier of what Onnit was selling. So I
Mm,
thought that maybe that was heavy. So I better not go quite that heavy. So I bought a 20-pound mace to start.
yeah.
Um,
We all
and,
learned the hard way.
right. Yeah. So, and I got that, and I didn't really know what I was doing with it. I bought like a $5 mace video, and I started following along to that. And I was liking it. I thought it was really cool, but I was just doing it in my garage, nothing too crazy. I wasn't really out there with it. But then one day on Instagram, I saw this man moving around in a strong, beautiful way. We both know I'm talking about Leo Savage.
Yep.
And once I saw that, I was just like, holy shit, that's what the mace is for. I don't know what I'm doing with this big 20-pound mace. And I remember squinting at the little, like, trying to see, like, how heavy is that mace he's using? And eventually I found out he was using primarily a 10-pound mace. And, I immediately ordered one. And as soon as I got it, I started trying to imitate the movements that I saw on Instagram.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
And that's,
how do you think seeing him, how do you think that like influenced you? Like, do you think it was like because it looked a little more martial arts, or like what was it that you liked about like flow when you first saw it? Like something attracted you, right?
yeah. Well, what attracted me to it was that it looked immediately challenging.
Mm,
You might think that because of my background, that it was because it looked, like a martial art, but that wasn't really it. And I did love when I was a kid, I was a huge Ninja Turtle fan, and I'd throw around, I'd go out into the woods, pick a stick. That would be my sword or my bow staff for the day.
yeah.
That was a regular practice for me. But when I saw Leo moving around with the mace, what really jumped out at me was that there was a combination of agility, grace, and strength and beauty. And I just knew, I could just tell by watching it. I'm like, that shit is hard.
Yeah, he
Like
makes it
I
look
just,
easy.
he makes it look easy. Yeah. But I think, maybe because I have enough of a background, I could look at it and I could tell like that's hard. Like that's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And not just because of the weight, just the way the movement in general. So it immediately captivated me. And that was like, here's something that I can work on and work up and work towards. So it wasn't
Wow.
necessarily like I'm going to get a 10-pound mace and then I'm going to master that stuff and then I'm going to do it with a 15-pound mace.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like that. It was like, well, I want to get a 10-pound mace because that was the tool. And then from there, the increases or the PRs would come in quality of movement.
Yeah, see, and I think that obviously coming from the powerlifting, going into something like that, it was a little different, kind of what you were looking for too, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And, so the marks of progress, it's a little bit more esoteric. It's not so much immediately like, oh, I PR'd by 2.5 pounds, because that would be something previously I would have been very, very excited about. So once I started moving with the mace, my PRs became, oh shit, this person followed me on Instagram and like complimented it or, threw me a tip.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really exciting that you mentioned that, you used to watch Leo. I mean, that's how we all start. I think we all go on Instagram and we're watching all these other coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, phenomenal people just using the mace in their own way. But I mean, how do you feel about Leo actually having a course online now? And he's like, it's like spreading everywhere. And I feel like maybe the info is like easier to get rather than just to look at a video. Now we can actually go online and like,
Yeah.
sign up and learn.
How do I feel about it? I think it's awesome.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't not say that. I mean, I'm one of Leo's coaches. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm invested in the program. I'm a part of the program. I've helped him teach at some of his certifications. So, how I feel about it is extremely proud
Yeah.
of someone that I looked up to and had become a mentor and who is now a great friend. So I'm just extremely happy to see that this work is spreading
Yeah.
and the positivity that and healing that is spreading with it. So I mean, I
Yeah.
couldn't feel better about it, really.
Yeah. I think when I saw it, I originally said, damn, that's what we needed, because when I first started, I went on the Onnit website,
Yeah.
and all there was are just, a couple of videos on there kind of like really, but now we can just go online and learn from the master himself. Right.
Yeah. And, and he's got some great coaches out there. So now you can go
Yeah.
on. I mean, Instagram is a completely different playing field than it was 3 years ago when I
Yeah.
started, when there were only a few people that were doing it. And, it wasn't necessarily very instructional. You just had a lot of people demonstrating stuff to captivate people, which was how you did it,
Right.
3 years ago. Now some of us are on the regular putting out instructional context within that minute window that we have. And I think it's allowing the people who pick up the mace now to, progress and accelerate, with a little bit more information. I mean,
Yeah.
the first 6 months I had a mace, I had no idea what I was doing and was basically on an island doing it because I didn't even know anyone else doing it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, when it comes to the mace, a couple years ago, now it's like I feel like we have coaches everywhere. And obviously we have Leo to thank for that, Mr. Mace Man, Eric,
Mm-hmm.
they're all doing their part to just spread base in that area to create coaches everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's now time for the next generation of leaders to
Yeah.
come up in the community. All respect to those guys, but it's time for some of us now to really step up and to
Yeah.
disseminate our not our interpretations of the movement, because movement is universal and no one can really own it, but
Right.
really to take some of the burden from them. Because when a few years ago you only had a handful of people, well, now you've got dozens, and
Yeah.
now the dozens of us, we have a responsibility to honor the tradition and to honor the safety, but to also honor the importance and the access of information as well.
Yeah. And I love it. The community is growing. Now, in your perspective, how fast do you think the community is growing? At least the Steel Mace community.
I think it's growing really fast. I mean, every week I'm coming across someone new that I'm like, oh, how did I not know about them already?
Yeah.
So I think it's growing really fast. I don't think that we're at a critical mass yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I always have to ask that question because I think I always try to step outside of Instagram and see like, oh, really how big is it? But like here in Yuma, I'm probably the only one spreading
Yeah.
mace. Like in your area, are you the only coach in that area, or is there more mace coaches?
No, as far as I know, I'm the only coach. I know of a couple of other people in Michigan who have maces and use them. Obviously I've got the people that I train with and the people that come to my classes, but aside from that, I don't know about a whole lot of mace stuff going around around the Detroit, Ann Arbor, Michigan area, or really any of Michigan. So.
Yeah. How does that make you feel? Like just
Well, it's definitely been lonely at times. It's kind of funny to say that, but the cool thing about the social media aspect is that connection has allowed me to, connect with other people and become fast friends with people who are on a similar trajectory as me, but we're not necessarily located geographically very close together.
yeah.
So when we come together in person, it's so much fun. Oh my God.
I know. Which
so-
I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about your Onnit trip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
let's
one?
talk about
I had
the
two.
last. I think it was the previous one. So your last one,
Okay.
right? Which was the one where Leo actually like gave you the cigarette and stuff.
Yeah, so that was actually that was early in May. That was the first trip I went on
Okay.
to Austin this year. And myself and Ben Walker, built by Ben, decided that we wanted to go do the Steel Mace Specialist certification program again because we had both done it a couple of years ago. But Onnit has a peer leader program available where you can go back and take a certification again and then provide them with some feedback. And there's also this concept that they might include you in a little bit of the education. The way things worked out that day, the primary instructor had an injury or some a medical issue come up and wasn't able to teach, so they called upon Leo, who I think was planning on being there anyway, but got the call the morning of that he was going to get to take a lead on it.
Wow.
So that turned out to be a very different experience than we were expecting, and a very, very cool one. I mentioned Leo's a close friend, so as his friend, I mean, it was just awesome all weekend to get to watch him do that and to get him to sign my Onnit certification. Was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. And I always enjoy seeing like everyone in a picture. I don't know if
Yeah.
you ever feel that way. Like when I see someone else from the community meeting up with someone else, or there's a video or a picture, it just gets me really excited. Oh,
Yeah. It's fun when you look at a group picture and you see like, oh, there's that person. I recognize them. I didn't know they were going to be there. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's a really good feeling. Now, in your perspective, because you have like, let's just say someone's like listening and they're trying to, get a certification.
Mhm.
Do you think the Onnit cert is very different than the Steel Mace Flow? Or is there some similarities, or how does?
Well, I think that there are definitely similarities, but they're different for sure. The Steel Mace Flow certification really focuses on moving with the mace in a complete way of combining lower body and upper body movements into complexes and sequences. If you do a live 2-day Steel Mace Flow certification, by the end of the second day you're flowing. And well, I should add, it's a really, really great program. The Onnit program is amazing as well. In an ideal world, I would tell a new practitioner, do both.
Both. All right.
Absolutely. Onnit's certification includes a little bit of flow. And that was really cool being there as a peer leader, because I had an opportunity to demonstrate flow at the Onnit Academy, and I got to do some assistant coaching at the Onnit Academy to me, which at that time was like a little bit of a dream come true, or not a little bit, it was a dream come true. So I mean, they're both fantastic programs. I would absolutely tell someone to do both. If someone had to pick one or the other, I would honestly look at where they're happening geographically in relation to you.
Right.
I mentioned that in my steel mace practice, at times I felt a little bit lonely. So I would want to go somewhere where I could connect live with other people.
Right. Right. Right.
That
Right.
being said, the online certification, if you don't have the ability to go somewhere, the Steel Mace Flow online certification is phenomenal. It's a great knowledge base. So if you can't get somewhere, get that.
That's so awesome. And now I've been snooping around on it, and they're releasing a Steel Mace. Have you got their Steel Mace ebook at all?
Oh yeah, I did. I saw
So
that.
at the very end, I scrolled all the way down and I noticed that they're doing a program, an online program for those who aren't coaches.
Yep.
That's interesting on its own. And I'm actually really excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I think I'm not 100% certain, but I think that online program is part of what we were filming the second time I was in Onnit this year. So just a couple weeks later, I went back for a filming gig, and I think that's what that was about.
Right.
I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that on the podcast.
Well, I don't know either. I've just been snooping around, and I'm like, this is going to be interesting. I've been waiting for.
So all those listening, I don't know. That's a theory, and
don't get him in trouble.
Don't sue me.
No, I'll make sure they don't sue you. All right, so you got new shirts, and you're wearing it right now. And
that's right.
Hell yeah, I love your logo. I didn't even know.
Thank you.
I didn't even know about it. Now I'm gonna have to buy one. But tell me a little bit about the logo.
Yeah, so the logo is it's
it's dope.
Thank you. So I have a thing for tigers. That's why the guy has a tiger head. I've got a tiger tattoo. I grew up around Detroit. My favorite baseball team, the Detroit Tigers. We used to have at the Detroit Zoo when I was a kid. There was a white tiger that I used to love to go see. So always had a thing for tigers. So it had to be tiger related.
Yeah.
I also wanted to incorporate a little bit of, sort of a martial artsy pose in there. So that's how we landed it at that. And then the rest of it was kind of, I grew up, I'm a child of the 80s. So, when I was a kid, He-Man was big. G.I. Joes were big. So I wanted something that was a little bit reminiscent of what I was into when I was a kid. And so we came up with this figure that looked like he maybe could have been in He-Man. So could have been a master of the universe.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I definitely became so attracted to it. I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I just wanted something like that looked a little vintagey, a little bit like, something that brought out the play, something that brought out the youthful nature of some things that I love to do.
Yeah. So do you have a gym or do you work out of a gym or just?
So I work at what we call the A2 Functional Fitness Collective. A2, for anyone who doesn't know, is a reference to Ann Arbor, the city that we're coaching out of. So the A2 and A2 Steel Fit is Ann Arbor. So the A2 Functional Fitness Collective is a group of trainers who share a space. So
that's cool.
It's a really, really cool model. So we do have one guy who is kind of like our cultural custodian, he calls himself, and he is the one who kind of oversees everything of the business. But the rest of us kind of come in and we really do our own thing. We stay out of each other's way, but we actually work together and kind of encourage each other. So we've got a powerlifting coach. We've got myself doing mace stuff. We've got, one guy who specializes in a lot of like rehab and functional training. And then we've got a couple of guys who are big into nutrition and more conventional training. We got a guy who's like a lifestyle coach. It's a pretty cool collective of people. We've got a couple of very powerful women coaching as well. So we've got a great balance of people. That's
so cool. That is a different way of running a gym, right? That's really awesome. And just to have like different I would say flavors, right, that we can choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're all kind of running our own business out of the space, but we share a lot too.
That's awesome. Now, do you do any online training?
I
If
do.
anyone was
I
like
do.
interested, they can.
Absolutely. In fact, a good portion of my business is being geared towards online training. So yeah, absolutely. I've been doing some one-on-ones online lately. I haven't been pushing a ton of that work yet because frankly, it's just been kind of coming to me, which is a really, really cool feeling. So I
That's
would
awesome.
definitely put out there, if any listeners want to get in on an online lesson, give me a shout. We'll work something out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always try to make sure I mention those things throughout the podcast because, I mean, I want you guys to get something in return from being on the podcast. So if you guys are listening, he's an awesome coach, which if you don't mind, can I read a couple of your Facebook reviews so people know how awesome you are?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's super nice.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh, well, Leo, here we go. One of the best Steel Mace Flow coaches around. How does that make you feel? That's awesome.
Dude, yeah, that's super nice, and I really
Yeah.
take that to heart. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So you have so many freaking reviews on here, and I just wanted to make sure people know, like, that you're an awesome coach. And what do you think, like, influenced you to be that, coach? Like, what led you to be like this awesome person?
Man,
It's a deep
well, thank you.
question, I know.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Well,
Because I
I
don't I
feel,
don't believe coaches are like automatically naturally good. It takes time. So like kind of like what
yeah,
led you?
yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of things that have really contributed to me being the coach that I am today, and I'll go with the shorter version, and then I'll circle back to the longer version, which is the second story of how I got to how I found the mace.
All right.
But the short version is last December I decided that I was going to enroll in the Strong Coach, which is a coaching and personal development program that went on for 12 weeks. That's put on by Mike Bledsoe of the formerly of the Shrug Collective and the Bledsoe Show podcast. And that program absolutely redefined my entire approach to running a business, running a coaching business. Being a coach, it affected how I approach my work outside of coaching. It affected how I approach my partnership with my wife. So that program has really influenced a lot of how I do pretty much
Wow.
everything. So
Okay.
so that definitely has been a huge part of developing me in the last 6 months.
Right.
Up until that, I would say the thing that's made me who I am, and a big part of who I am, and for the listeners who might not know this about me, I also focus a lot on the mental health aspects of training. Subjects like anxiety and depression and being suicidal are subjects that are near and dear to my heart because I've experienced them. And people I love have experienced them. People I love have experienced them and gone on to do great things. People I love have experienced them and not gone on at all. So I think that my passion about combining, some, conscious efforts towards positive mental well-being influence that as well.
Right. And I think it's a very common thing, but we do not talk about it. So it's really cool to have
Yeah.
someone out there
Yeah.
able to put themselves out, as a coach and being able to help someone.
I think it's super important. What really led me to the mace, yes, I have a story about a band that, through this artwork, and I found this thing and I did this thing and then I really loved it. But ultimately, Victoria, what happened is I spent a lot of years hating myself. I spent a lot of years feeling like I wasn't worthy. I spent a lot of years struggling with all kinds of things, not being a very good person, not being an honest person, hanging out with the wrong substances, hanging out with the wrong people. And I got to a place where I did not remember how to receive love, and I didn't remember how to feel like I was worthy. I lost track of a lot of who I was when I was younger, and I forgot how to feel beautiful on the inside or the out. So part of what happened in that moment when I saw someone moving around with the mace in a really beautiful way, my brain immediately associated that and thought, if I could do that, if I could learn to do that, if I could express some beauty or feel some beauty, then maybe I would start to feel more worthy. Maybe
Yeah.
I would remember how to receive love. Maybe I would find a way to battle the depression and the anxiety and the suicidal thoughts that had plagued me for years and years. And turns out there was something to that, because through learning to express some beautiful movements, I found a way to feel beautiful again and to feel worthy.
That's awesome. That hit me. Yeah, I think, do you think it like released some of those anxieties and whatever you were feeling through movement? Or do you think
Um,
it's still kind of there?
Oh, I mean, I think those kind of things are there. I mean, I think if someone deals with chronic anxiety or chronic depression or, a generalized anxiety disorder, I mean, let's be real, that kind of thing might be there for the rest of your life. But you can still live a healthy life with those things as long as you're, taking care of yourself and practicing good habits and knowing those things, not hiding from them,
Yeah.
owning them, and talking about them.
Yes.
So that's why, especially in the last 6 months, I dabbled in it a little bit over the last couple of years, but in the last few months especially, I've decided to be very open about those things. And I try to, maybe not once a week, but at least once every couple of weeks, I throw up a little bit of a discourse in a post. I tend to be very verbose sometimes. But if you follow me, every once in a while, please read the entirety of what I say, because
Yeah.
it might seem like a lot, but I do try to convey what I believe are important messages. And um, I'm in a leadership role now in this community. I didn't necessarily set out to be, but I found myself here, and
Mhm.
and I really believe that part of my role is to bring some awareness to those things,
Yeah.
because I think that depression and anxiety are prevalent in the fitness industry, because they're prevalent in every other aspect of life.
Yep.
Now, the things that people might experience anxiety about might be different, but the physical manifestations are always the same.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can relate to you so much. I struggled with depression, suicidal thoughts like my whole life. And recently, when my dad passed away, was probably the hardest
Yeah.
time in my life. So definitely Instagram and being able to like put things out and, that helps a lot. And it would be awesome for people to just read it out and just, if they're in that similar spot, being able to help them out in some way or form. I mean, it's not entirely going to help, but at least something.
No, no, it's I'm not saying that it's a magic bullet,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a big thing of, something that people are generally experiencing with depression is a sense of isolation. Like,
Mhm.
I'm alone and no one understands.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people who are experiencing that don't have a means to really connect with people. They might be
Yeah.
going to a job that they don't like, and they might be going home and getting, stuck watching shows and, you know, not really connecting with people. So something that has been really cool about the Mace community and having that connection so readily available on social media is, I think it kind of can help bring some people together who might not otherwise seek out connection. Um,
Right.
and they find themselves seeking that connection, not deliberately because they're looking for connection. Maybe they're just looking to move beautifully and to feel a little
Yeah.
bit more worthy. But and this is part of why I think I touched on bullying a little bit earlier as well. Why some of the bullying I see in the fitness industry is so disheartening, because the people that are affected by that the most are the people who are seeking connections.
Yeah.
As a coach, I can take some heat. People can throw some stuff at me all day long and say, I'm not into what you do, or, they can poke fun and
Yeah.
whatever. I'm not too worried about that. But what I'm worried about is people seeing that and them being the ones who are looking for connection, and they see this kind of bullying happen, and then they shell back up, and instead of extending themselves out and seeking that greater connection, they retreat a little bit more, and maybe they put the mace down and say like, that's not for me. And that's
right. Yeah.
That's very unfortunate stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got down that, but I did.
No, that's fine. And now I guess that kind of leads me to, because I saw a quote on your Instagram, and you said, I inclusively empower the Steel Mace community.
Yeah.
Is that sort of like where you went right now?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and really what I'm trying to say with that is, if anyone who wants to train with me, I don't care who you are. I mean, I do care who you are. In fact, I care very much who you are. But what led you to me, I don't. Where you've trained before doesn't matter. Where else you train right now, that doesn't even really matter either. As long as you're showing up to me with a good heart, I will give you the same thing back. I'm not going to turn anyone away. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And I think, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that thing is really, really important, because exclusivity in the fitness world, and especially in the mace world, it's just not something I'm into. I know there's a certain degree of it, but it's not something that I can support.
Right. No, I'm glad we're touching all of these topics, because it's not something that has really been brought up before. So it's kind of it's showing your colors on the podcast, and I love it.
Yeah, well,
thank you for sharing. I mean, I'm pretty sure the listeners are going to appreciate it a lot.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because like you said, these are things that people aren't talking about very directly, and maybe I'm not talking very directly either. I mean, I'm kind of circling around some things, and I'm not gonna throw out any names or people or anything, because really what I just want is to positively affect people's lives. And I want to see people not be negatively affected by something that I really care about.
Right. We should always be positive about things, especially in the mace community. But other than that, I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say things like, flow is my therapy, or the mace is my therapy, or in jiu-jitsu I would hear people say like, oh, my mat time is my therapy. A lot of people say a lot of things are their therapy. And I think that's great. I think that therapeutic activity is fantastic and very, very important. But if you find yourself saying like something is my therapy very often, then maybe you should seek out real therapy.
Okay.
Maybe like talk to a coach or something, because we're this whole thing we walk around in, this body, this mind, this is all connected. And I said before, with the mace, it's not a magic bullet. It's very, very helpful. It led me to great, great things. It helped empower me to do great, great things. But it's not a magic bullet, and nothing really is. If we want to be complete, if we want to be totally peaceful, you have to do the work in multiple ways.
Yes.
And you got to do the work on the mind, and we got to do the work on the body too. Now, maybe therapy doesn't mean necessarily going to therapy, but whatever it means, whether you sit with yourself in meditation, whether you talk to people and, really express yourself and put out there what you really feel and emote. I think that's just as important as banging out reps of any exercise.
Right. Mind, body, and spirit, right? We got to have all three.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my little belief system there. Like if one's off, I don't know, I don't feel very complete.
Yeah.
But that's me personally. So yeah, definitely. Body is one thing, mind's another. And I think the mind is so important in anything, especially when you're in fitness, like very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right on. Well, I mean, I think I hit all the spots, unless you still want to keep going at it. I don't know.
Well, I posted a thing about an hour ago on my Instagram, a story that said, doing a podcast in 45 minutes. Ask me anything, and I've got a couple responses.
Yeah, let's do that. Awesome. So glad
You
you
want to
did
go
it.
through those?
Yeah,
All
go
right.
for it.
Okay. All right. I haven't read these yet, so I don't know what we're getting into.
All right.
This
Woo!
will be fun.
Exciting.
Here's one. The first one says, "Should I do the strong coach?" I guess the short answer is yes. If you're thinking about it, you should absolutely look into it.
Awesome.
The second one is, how much do you flow versus regular training?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. But I'm not really sure what regular training means.
Anything else?
Yeah, everything else. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that. I would say that I flow to some degree nearly every day, and I train every day. So the answer is a lot.
A lot.
What is up with those flips? I don't do flips. I don't know. I don't really do a lot of flips. I wonder if they mean flippy mace work, or
can we do flips with the mace? Is that possible?
Maybe they mean do they mean the weird? Maybe they mean the weird shoes that I wear.
Oh,
so, do you guys do you know about the weird flip flops that?
No, but it sounds hilarious.
So there's this shoe. It's called Zero Shoes, Zero with an X, and they make these sandals. They're not really flip flops, but they're sandals, and it's basically just a piece of rubber with some rope attached to it. That I think Ben Walker was the first one to find, and then Leo had them, and now I've got a pair, and then a couple other friends of ours do. So we kind of joke around that it's part of our uniform. Maybe that's what they mean.
That's probably what it is. Absolutely.
So, but what's up with those is that they're awesome.
Now I gotta go look at them. That is so fucking cool. Okay.
What is your favorite mace?
Ooh.
My favorite mace is this one right here. I call this one Kindness. This is my first 10-pound mace. There you go. It's an Onnit 10-pound mace. So I guess that's my favorite mace. This one has traveled with me to New York. It's gone to Texas with me. It's not the mace I've put the most hours in. The one I put the most hours in lives in California with my brother now. I gave it to him a few months ago.
Oh, that's cool.
But Kindness is probably my favorite.
Oh, I love the name Kindness. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, to kill them with kindness.
Okay. All right. Love it.
What side you on? What do you think they mean by that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to know. Talking about.
I'm from Michigan, so I'm on the north side.
Boom.
I'm on the north side.
I'm on the West Coast.
All right. That's cool.
Let's not have a Tupac and Biggie moment, though. Okay.
Yeah, but if they're talking about mace stuff, obviously I'm in Steel Mace Flow. So I guess if I'm on the side, that's the side I'm on. This is a good one. Do I need to have a beard to weld a mace? I think that means wield a mace. I think they meant wield a mace. Do I need to have a beard to wield a mace? No, absolutely not. Message of inclusivity that I want to put out there. You don't need to have a beard to wield a mace. But if you don't have a beard, imagine how much better you could be if you grew one.
I don't think I can grow one.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
And the last one I have to address. Ooh, that's a good one too. It just says #no flow zone.
What?
I've seen that hashtag.
What does that
I'm not a
mean?
fan. I think it means that we're not into flow. And I'm not supportive of that message. I think it's cool if you don't want to flow. I'm not sitting here telling you that you got to flow. I'm going to tell you that I really like it.
Yeah.
And if you want to train some flow, like I got you. But I'm not really down with the message of like, no flow. That doesn't feel good to me. But if that feels good to you, cool.
I'm not even gonna get into it.
And that's it. That's all I got.
That was it. Well, they were all good.
Yeah.
The majority of them, except that last one. We can just, right?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Whatever.
I want everyone who's out there swinging mace to just do their best with their and use their hearts for what their hearts are for.
Exactly. I'm gonna amen that. Amen.
All right.
That's all we want. All right. Other than that, where can people find you online? And if they wanted to train with you, how would they go about? What's the process on that?
Right on. You can find my website at www.a2steelfit.com. You can find me on the Instagram at Jeffrey, JEFFREY.OCHS. If you want to train with me online, the best way to do it is shoot me a message. You can email me at a2steelfit@gmail.com or hit my Instagram. And then we have a really elaborate process where we just set up a time and we do it.
I love it. All right. And now if someone wanted to get your shirt, same thing, just message you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually, when do you think this will air?
I would say next week.
Next week? Okay, so the pre-orders will be done, but because those actually end in 2 days. But
okay.
Just shoot me a message. We'll set you up. I'm getting some extra printed.
Okay.
And then in a couple months, I'm going to have a new design and a new shirt too.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. This one, like I said, kind of indulged my childhood a little bit. The next design, which will also include a tiger and will also include a mace, is going to indulge a little bit more of my adult persona.
All right. Fantastic. I love it. And I love you. And I thank you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome. I love talking to you. And
and I really hope people take in the message, and because it's completely different. I just got to tell you, hands down, it's a complete different message in this one. And I loved it.
Thank you. I mean, I know there's a lot of great coaches out there that can talk to you a lot more about the physiological responses to the mace and how you can use it to express, strength and conditioning.
Right.
Obviously, my coaching is a little bit different than that. I mean, we can go into that, but I have a long history. Like I actually have a degree in psychology. I've worked with the troubled youth population.
Wow.
I'm a very experienced crisis counselor. And I mentioned some of the struggles that I've had. So the ties that it has to connecting with people and to mental health are very, very important to me, and are something that's, like you said, it's not talked about a whole lot. I hope it's something that we can talk about more. And if any of you out there want to engage in some discourse about it, please reach out to me. We don't have to be client coach to converse. I'm happy to talk to anybody about these subjects. And if anyone out there is just feeling alone and just needs someone to talk to, man, reach out.
That's beautiful, man. And last note, the Mace community is awesome. Everyone that I've reached out to personally, always really cool. They're not like, I'm going to charge you $80 for this conversation. It's literally like you create relationships in the Mace community. Everyone's fucking awesome so far. And again, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm honored to have you on this podcast.
Hey, thank you so much, Victoria. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. And may the universe always flow with you.
Thank you. Right back to you.